If you've been keeping an eye on the Toronto real estate market, you've likely noticed it has been heating up, or you've seen the excessive amounts of headlines saying, the Toronto real estate market is roaring back to life, or, oh my goodness, bidding wars are back. Today, I'm going to break down what is actually happening in the Toronto real estate market, based off our stats from this past January. Let's find out if the Toronto real estate market is really heating up, or if your local realtor just doesn't know how to price a listing. This past January has brought a noticeable change to the Toronto real estate market. Compared to January of 2023, we saw a significant uptick in home sales. The GTA saw a 37% increase in sales, while in my video about the 2023 real estate market, I said January is typically where the market starts to pick up. I didn't see sales jumping by a third right out of the gate. This rise signals a rebound, as we've been downtrending in both prices and sales numbers ever since our high in both sales and prices in May of 2023. Buyers are becoming more active and attracted to the market, and this helps to bring out the sellers at the same time. New listings were up 6% compared to January of 2023, and were up 114% from December, just 2 months ago. What does this mean? Well, it shows the market is interesting sellers enough for them to put their home on the market. It also shows that the real estate market is sticking to its seasonality with the increase in activity in the new year. Unfortunately, the 6% increase in new listings compared to January of last year is not enough to keep up with the ever-growing demand for homes, and a potentially tighter market with growing competition may be on the horizon as we approach the spring season. Now, what is it that has led to this sudden increase in sales? Well, the fixed rates for mortgages peaked in October, and they really stayed flat until the new year. Since the new year, though, the fixed rates for mortgages have been coming down from their highs and becoming more affordable. I'll put the rates from the different banks up on the screen here. Now, it isn't by a significant amount, but it is enough that many homebuyers are seizing the opportunity, because in a market like Toronto, the second something becomes slightly more affordable, it's like blood in the water. Now, you may be thinking, but everyone says the Bank of Canada is cutting rates in the spring, so why would I buy now? Why not just wait until rates are lower and then it will become more affordable? Well, because based off past trends, the real estate market is seasonal, and prices will be higher come into February, so that increase in affordability from interest rates might just be completely negated by the higher purchase prices. The people buying now are trying to be ahead of the curve and get into the market in case prices jump in the spring. The people buying now may also be able to get a float down rate. This means if mortgage rates decrease further after they've already locked in their rate, they can still take advantage of the lower rate. For example, if their agreement specifies a float down rate with a drop of 0.5% and the rates fall by at least that much by the time the home purchase closes, the bank will honor the lower rate, offering the buyer this reduced rate instead. On top of the lower borrowing cost, you also have the current high rent scenario, which only adds to the appeal of moving towards homeownership as the rates get lower. Right now, for example, I have an investor looking at pre-con assignments for $550,000 or less, and all of them rent for around $2,500. The monthly expenses for that unit with the mortgage, plus the maintenance fees, utilities, and taxes, so all your expenses for the unit, will be just above $3,000 a month. Only $500 more a month, which is $6,000 more a year compared to renting. These numbers are what's making homeownership just much more desirable than renting. Entry-level homes and condos just make more sense financially than renting right now, and that adds fuel to the resale market. Let's take a look at the prices. Despite the surge in sales activity this past month, we saw a slight decrease in the average selling price compared to January of 2023. Prices were lower by 1%, which I'd consider flat, and they settled at $1,026,000. From December 2023, just 2 months ago, the prices are lower by 5.65%. This small dip shows that the buyers are more cautious with their money, and sellers are adjusting to what buyers are willing to pay. Now remember, these price changes aren't the same across all housing types and neighborhoods, because real estate is local. For example, detached homes in C04, which is the Lawrence Park area, saw 13 sales at an average price of $3.5 million this past January. In January 2023, they saw 23 sales, but the average price was $2.1 million because the sold homes were smaller than the ones that sold this year. Condos in downtown Toronto sold at an average price of $804,000 this past January, and at the same time last year, they sold on average for $790,000, showing condo prices downtown have increased by 1.77%. But then you look at C08, which is downtown's East End neighbor, and prices are down by 1.18% for condos. So you can see some areas see different price changes, others continue to hold their value or experience slight increases, while the area right next door loses value compared to last year. This variance shows why knowing the specific market in your area is important when making buying or selling decisions. So, looking ahead, what can we expect? Well, if the Bank of Canada cuts its policy rate as expected in the latter half of 2024, we could see a further increase in home sales. The likely scenario? A market with more buyers than available listings, leading to a rise in competition and then sales prices. Is this going to be a crazy hot market like February 2022? No. Will there be more action than normal? Yes, the fixed mortgage rates are coming down for the first time since spring of 2020. Of course, people are going to want to buy. Don't believe all the headlines you read, especially about bidding wars and the market being red hot. Most real estate agents are lazy and they don't know how to price a listing. The easiest way for them to sell a property is to list it way below its value so they can get interest and tell everyone they're a great salesperson. For example, the home in Mississauga that made headlines a week or two ago for having 85 offers. I'm not even going to bother showing the comparables because they didn't even try. I'll just show you what they bought it for in 2017, how much the market has gone up since then, and then show you what they listed it at. Here's another one at River City Condos.
And shout out to Margaret, if you're watching, who sent this listing to me when it went live and said, "Is this a joke?"
Zero effort made. The listing sold 25% over asking, 25% on a one-bed condo. Come on. Not to mention, it still sold for below what the comparables were. Sure, you can argue that it's on a low floor, so it actually sold for what it's worth, but that just goes to show that the strategy to underlist it by an extreme amount doesn't work and you'll still get the same price as everyone else. So, if you're reading anywhere that there are crazy bidding wars, yes, there are, but not because the market is hot, it's because of laziness. If you're searching for a home right now, make sure you're working with a realtor who can do the proper comparables before taking you to see a home, because you're going to get there and love the house just for both of you to later find out that they're holding offers and the home is out of your budget. It's important to always take these media headlines with a grain of salt. They're all saying the market is roaring back to life and this is going to be a crazy spring for real estate. Just take a breath and look at the numbers. We saw 4,200 sales transactions take place this past January, up from the 3,100 in January of 2023. Keep in mind though, 2023 was the lowest number of home sales since the year 2000. Now, take a look back at the past 10 years. January 2022 saw 5,600 sales. This was a month before the peak of the real estate market. 2021, 6,900 sales. 2020, 4,500 sales. 2019 and 2018 both saw 4,000 sales, and it keeps going on and on and on. The average number of transactions in January for the past 10 years is 4,662 home sales. So for January 2024, we're actually below the average number of sales that take place based off the last 10 years of data. The prices are flat and the number of new listings is at the average. So it's just another consistent January. Nothing to write home about like the news outlets would have you thinking. If we zoom way out and take a look at the bigger picture and look at the 21st century, there have only been 5 years since the year 2000 where there have been less than 4,000 transactions that took place in the month of January. Those years being 2000, 2001, 2009, 2019, and 2023. So again, I say take the headlines with a grain of salt because yes, we're up in January this year compared to January of last year, but we're just back to normal. In fact, slightly below normal. It's really not hard to go up when January 2023 saw the lowest sales ever since the financial crisis, and before that, the lowest sales numbers were in 2001. The only direction to go really was up. Now, I want to quickly touch on how while the market will pick up in the coming months because seasonality and falling interest rates, I don't believe we will see a substantial boom or anything that should cause you as a buyer or seller to have fear of missing out. While the anticipated interest rate cuts by the Bank of Canada will boost market activity, it's important to remember that there are so many other factors influencing the market right now. Simply lowering rates is not enough to address these complex issues. For starters, homeowner affordability is 50% above the historical norm. Housing affordability hasn't been this bad since 1982, when interest rates were 14%. Just to get back to the historical norm, the average income would have to increase by 30%, or the average home price would need to fall 20%. On top of that, Canadians have record debt amounts, and banks have become much stricter on who they lend to and how much, making it much harder to get the mortgage you need. Those are just a few of the reasons on why interest rate cuts won't just revive the Toronto real estate market and put us at numbers above the historical averages. In my next video, I'll go more in depth on this topic and provide 5 reasons on why future interest rate cuts won't lead to the hot real estate market many people believe is just on the horizon. So, what have we learned about the Toronto real estate market this past January? A lot. Sales have picked up from their historic lows, and even though prices are relatively flat, buyers and sellers are becoming interested in the current market we're in. This tells us that things are starting to move again in the market after an extremely quiet period. But looking ahead, it's important not to get too caught up in the excitement. Don't be fooled by bidding wars. The homes are still selling for at or below their comparable from the past 4 or so months. If it's a high demand and rare property, then yes, you may be caught up in a legitimate bidding war. But that's taking place more so in the $2 million and up price range. Prices will go up most likely in the spring, as that's just seasonal and that's what happens every single year, but I don't think it will be drastic. For interest rates, yes, cuts are on the horizon, and yes, that could make more people want to buy homes, but there's a lot more going on that affects the market, like how much homes cost compared to how much money people make, and how easy it is to get a mortgage. These things mean that even with lower interest rates, we might not see a huge boom in the market. The best advice I can give? Keep up with what's happening. Think about what you really need and can afford, and talk to experts who can help you make smart choices. My info is always down in the description below if you have any questions. Stay tuned for my next video where I'll look at the more bearish side of the market and provide 5 reasons on why interest rate cuts may not lead to a hot real estate market. See you then, and thanks for watching.